Another Dr. Zaius adventure.
Welcome. Today, I'm going to give you a brand new owner's perspective of the 2026 Aprilia 660 Rally. This is my first big ride on this bike, and I want to give you the ins and outs on what I thought. I started out in Scottsdale, rode to a place called Skull Valley, and then up through the scenic Highway 89 up to Prescott. It's about 265 miles, all pavement, some highways, mostly twisty back roads. Absolutely beautiful ride. But before I give you how I felt about the bike and what it was like, I thought I'd give you a little history on how I ended up buying the 660. I've been adventure riding since 2008. Before that, I was on dirt bikes mainly, growing up as a kid, always riding motocross, always out in the woods. Eventually made it to the sand dunes with paddle tires and rode off-road for most of my childhood and early adulthood. And then in 2008, I found adventure bikes. I've had other street bikes before. I've had Harleys, Hayabusa sport bikes, those kind of things. But the adventure bike that I first settled on in 2008 was the brand new BMW F800 GS at the time. From there, it was all about trying to find that magical unicorn that kind of did it all. So always searching for that unicorn bike, I started out on the 2008 BMW F800 GS. I was on a waiting list for over a year, waiting for that sucker to come out. It finally came out, and I really liked it. It was a great bike. I put about 30,000 miles on it and rode it all over, not the country, mainly the West Coast, up and down, and took many adventures on it and absolutely loved it. Ultimately, though, I wanted more, and I ended up buying a brand new 2015 Ducati Multistrada Pikes Peak. This thing was a different animal. I found myself doing more on-road with it, mainly because it was a $30,000+ bike, and dumping it off-road kind of got me nervous a little bit, but thoroughly enjoyed it on the road. It was definitely a street bias machine. You could tell by the front wheel on it, almost 200 horsepower. It was a lot of overkill. Really loved it, but it really didn't serve all of my purposes, because I really wanted to do more of the dirt riding and wanted to do BDRs, and this was, in my eyes, just wasn't quite right for me. I then moved to a 2022, I think it was a 2022, it was a KTM 790 Adventure R when they first came out. Now, this thing was a completely different animal. I loved how the fuel was low in it. The one thing that bike I really loved about it was the way it felt when you were standing there and you were moving it around, you're bicycling it around your garage or driveway. Because the fuel was so tucked down low, I could really feel like I could almost do anything on that bike. Now, I was never in love with how it looked. For me, it looked like a low-slung brick. However, it performed really, really well. I really, really liked that bike. I put all the different kind of panniers on it and really took that thing out into, did partial BDRs in Arizona, and really liked that bike, but I was never in love with the bike. It was, weight-wise, it was a lot less than Ducati, but it was still more than I wanted on the dirt. And quite honestly, I didn't need all of the power. I didn't really use the power on the dirt. It did everything I wanted, and the road was okay. It was very stiff on the road, and it was a little bumpy on the roads, and didn't quite like the road presence on it, but I really liked it once I got off-road, with the exception of just how it felt riding it. I just felt like it was still just a little too heavy, even though the weight was low slung in it. I ended up getting rid of that, and I went way on the other side of the extreme. I got a 2024 Honda CRF 450 RL. Now, this bike is a dual sport. It is an adventure bike, and I went completely the other direction, and This Dual Sport was a very nice bike, and so in fact I still had it. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to do some things to that bike. That bike, I got a get map on it. I changed out the emissions on it and took away the pipe and unrestricted it, did an airbox piece, put a throttle tamer on it. And once you do those, I put a bigger tank on it. Once you do those things to it, the bike is absolutely flawless with limitations. It is a dirt bike, and it is a high-strung dirt bike. The average intervals between oil changes were somewhere between about 600 miles. I would stretch it to 750 just because I wasn't riding it too hard. But I found that thing on the roads, it was meant to get you through a little bit of pavement and then back on the dirt. So I knew that I had to scratch that adventure bug one more time, so I started doing my research. And I researched like crazy, and out of nowhere, I've always discounted the Aprilias. I've never even looked at them before. I finally clicked into a video where I got to understand what it is about the Aprilia that makes it so special. The first thing is the fuel tank being low slung in the frame. It has that similar KTM feel. Although it looks like it's all up top, that's just the airbox up top. So I really liked how the weight sat on this bike. And speaking of weight, the weight was very, very light compared to the KTM and a lot of the other adventure bikes. I was looking at the new F900 GS, and I just couldn't get past how big and heavy it was. And the tank on the F900 GS is actually smaller than the tank on the Aprilia 660. Now, I was just like most of you, where I thought, Aprilia, this thing is going to be breaking down nonstop. What's the dealers like? Where are they located? All those same kind of headaches. I'm an early adopter, so those things don't really bother me that much. I did have a dealership less than 2 miles from my house, so I really had no problem with the dealer piece of it. And I don't mind bikes that I know that could give me issues, as long as they are serving all of my needs. So this ride was my maiden voyage, 265 miles on this bike. And let me tell you how it went. Now, I'm going to preface this. This is going to be all on pavement today because I don't have any of the crash protection on it. I've got a bunch of things on order for this bike. I'll go through that list at some point, I think, or maybe it'll be a different video of upgrades that once I put them all on. But for now, I wanted to get a feel for this bike on the road where I wouldn't risk, dumping it, crashing it on any kind of dirt without the protection on it. So first, let me give you the overall impression, and let me start with the ergonomics of it. I'm 5'10" with a 30-inch inseam, and I don't have a lot of reach. So this bike, the one thing I did put on it right away was the low comfort seat. Unlike the KTM, for me being 5'10" with a 30-inch inseam, I can sit on this bike, straddle it, balls of the feet easy. If you make one slight adjustment to the left or right, flat-footed, no problem. The bike fit my size, my legs perfectly. The handlebars with the stock risers, one of the things I always have to change out with these bikes is the different reach position for me with my arms. But this bike, perfect position with these bars, with their handlebar risers, fit my reach perfect. When my legs are on the pegs, my knee bend is exactly where it should be, and the tank feels very slender between the knees. It doesn't feel as small as the Honda CRF 450RL, but it doesn't feel as big as that KTM either. The bike feels very controllable. It was perfect ergonomics when I sat down there with the riding position. Between my hands reached out for the bars, not reached out, but just sitting on those bars, and where my legs were at, for me, is an ideal seating position. Now, the first thing I did once I got on the bike and started moving, I stood up on it and did see how it would feel standing, and the bike is absolutely perfect while standing as well. And again, everybody's different. Everybody's frame is different, how their body is made up. But for me, with my inseam, my legs, my arms, my reach, I'm 5'10", 190 pounds. This bike, sitting and standing, was absolutely spot on for me. Moving into the controls, there was one piece of this bike that I am going to have to change, and again, because every rider is different, you may not have to do it, but for me, the reach on the levers, when my hands are on the grips, both the clutch lever and the front brake lever on my right hand, both of those reaches are just a little too far for my fingers to extend. I feel like my hand is all the way extended in order to grab that clutch or grab that front brake and start to apply it. I find myself having to shift grips from my throttle hand or from my left hand to be able to reach forward to really grab a hold of those levers. Again, it could be my short, stubby fingers on my hands, so I will be probably trading out these levers for something that's more adjustable and that I can use with my reach and my grip in my hands. I've read a lot of reviews on how to get in and out of the menus. For me, I thought it was very intuitive. It's very easy to follow. I really liked how as you change the rider modes, and you can do that on the fly. And it is absolutely awesome that once you pick a rider mode, even if you turn the gas off or turn the bike off, you go to get gas, you turn it back on, it stays in that mode. I absolutely love that. But getting in and out of the modes was very easy and very intuitive. I loved how the dash changes color depending on what mode you pick. So you can look down there, and if you're in Explorer mode, which is the street mode on it, that gives you the kind of what I call the hot map that turns the thing into a sport bike. The whole screen is blue, and it's really easy to look down there and see. Not only does it say Explorer, but it also has that blue around the dash on you. So I really like the way that dash works. On the left-hand side is where the cruise control is at. I've never had a bike with cruise control. This is a luxury that I'm always going to go after with every single bike after this. I absolutely love it. The cruise control is really easy to use. I was reading a lot of reviews and they talked about the flashing green light. I'm not sure what they're referencing, but to pull the cruise on, you just push the lever over and it will engage, it turns the cruise on and the cruise will start flashing. You pull the lever over one more time to set it and it goes steady green. And from there, it's just a matter of toggling up if you want to go faster, or toggling down if you don't. If you pull the clutch, touch the brakes or anything, it automatically disengages. And to turn the cruise off, you can just pull that lever one more time, hold it for a second, and the cruise shuts down immediately. I found it super easy to use. So I found that the whole dashboard going through the TFT computer on the front there, going in and out of cruise control, the ergonomics of the turn signals, the turn signals are very similar to many other bikes I have. I thought that they were all very well thought out, very easy to use. Now, my only other complaint I have when it comes to the controls where my hands were at, now on this ride we were going up into the mountains, so it was about 50 degrees at times. It was getting pretty cold, so I had my winter gloves on. Because I had to reach so far forward to capture that clutch lever on my left hand, it happens to be where you engage the high beams. So there's a small switch up there. You can toggle it forward to turn the high beams on and they'll stay on. Or like a lot of bikes, you can just flick it. If you're coming up to cars, you want them to see you, you can always flash your high beams there. I was turning my high beams on a lot as I was reaching for that clutch, because I found myself on my left hand in particular sliding my hand all the way to the very edge of that grip, the very beginning edge of that grip, so I could have the shortest distance to reach where I was engaging that one switch. So again, when I change the levers out, I think that's going away, and that may be just the bike training me a little bit. I'll briefly get into the riding modes because I've only really played with 2 of them, or 3 of them. The individual mode, I was getting in and out of there and kind of changing things up, and you can really feel the difference as you're moving. I spent a lot of time in the Explorer mode, which is what I always refer to as kind of the sport bike mode. It turns it into a beast. It's really a lot of fun when you get into that. The power's instant. It really pulls hard. It's just a lot of fun. And I was also in the urban mode quite a bit as well. That's a little gentler on the mapping, so when you twist the throttle, it's not quite as aggressive. The suspension feels a little bit softer. I don't know if it's in my mind or not, but the bike just relaxes a little bit, soaks up the cushions when I'm in and out of traffic, and I'm going from stoplight to stoplight and in and out of parking thresholds, parking lots, those kind of things. It was a really nice experience using these rider modes, and I have no complaints so far with any of the modes. They all, for me, perform flawlessly. Now, on the suspension side of it, on these twisties, the bike turns in really well. It feels really nimble, very nimble. As you're going down the highway and you're going into these twisties, you push and pull on those bars. The bike fillets over, leans over, and it really wants to have fun with you, and I really enjoy that. I love the sound of the engine, the intake from this right. It feels like it's right underneath my chin, where the air intake is. It has a really rich sucking sound with a very deep exhaust note. All stock right now. Just an absolute pleasure to listen to and to ride. So I was really happy with the performance, how it was turning into corners. I always get a little hesitant with 21-inch wheel. No problem on this bike. You can feel that Aprilia street bike presence when you ride this on the road. It's really a distinctive feel, and it's just a lot of fun. The one piece again that I'm gonna have to change is the windscreen. So for me, it throws the air right into the face of my helmet. If I was about 3 inches shorter, I think I would be just fine. If I was 3 inches taller, I think the wind would come and hit me more on my chest, which wouldn't be as bad. That's where on the KTM 790 Adventure R, it had a little windscreen on that. But because it was so little, I felt like the wind hit me in the chest, and I didn't really have any buffeting on that bike. This bike, I have definite buffeting when it hits the helmet. So probably a Puig taller touring windscreen, because I do plan to ride this more 50-50, is going to be in my future. But again, that's an easier solve. Every rider is going to be different. I wouldn't change anything until you jump on here and start riding it. But after riding it 265 miles in one day, I definitely need to change that windscreen out to have a little bit less buffeting and to move that air over the top of my helmet a little smoother and easier. As I head off into the sunset and leave y'all, I will say that this bike might just be the favorite of them all so far. I've never had a bike where I've thrown my leg over it and so much felt so right, so quick. I have to change a couple of things like I talked about, but really in the big scheme of things, to put a leg over a brand new bike, I've never had an Aprilia before, I've got an awful lot of respect for it. Now granted, this is all on pavement and I'm still in braking mode. One of the things that the Aprilia does, which I really think is neat, is they really want you to keep this thing under 6,000 RPM. So as you get up into the 6,000 RPM, You get a red flashing light on your dash just telling you to ease up, Tiger. Give me some more miles before you really get into this thing. I didn't really wick it open or take it on a hooligan ride because I do want to break it in properly. So I'm going to take my time, break this thing in. After 671 miles, I know it's a really random number. That's when the lights can go off, get my first oil change, and then I can really have some fun with this. And by then, my bits and pieces will come in. That's a whole nother story. What you're going to find out about me is I'm not too patient when I get a new bike. I've already got everything coming for it. I'm going to let that rest until another video. But right now, just know that if you're looking for adventure bikes, put this one on the list. Take one for a test ride. Don't be afraid. And I'll keep you up to date with how I like it and how it's treating me. For now, I'm going to sign off, and we're going to keep on riding. But more to come with the Aprilia 660.